Welcome to Where Passion Meets Purpose. I'm your host, Jen Mentasana. On this show, we help busy moms and entrepreneurs find more passion and purpose in their daily lives through inspiring stories and interviews. Welcome back, everyone, to Where Passion Meets Purpose. I am so excited that you all are joining us today. We have the most incredible guest. I've actually been trying to get her on the show for quite some time, and we finally found a time to connect, and you are going to be so excited to hear her story and her journey and all about entrepreneurship from what she went through. Erin Condren is the entrepreneur and owner of, and launched Erin Condren, a line of organizers and planners. You probably heard of her before. And she sold that company back during the pandemic, and she started a new venture that we're going to get to hear all about and hear her journey from beginning of entrepreneurship into selling her business and what it takes to be a passionate entrepreneur and live in passion and purpose every day. So thank you so much, Erin, for being here on the show today.
I'm so happy to be here. It's been a while since I've done this, so it feels good to be back and chatting and inspiring, I hope.
Yes, I know that you are so many women are going to just learn so much from your journey and what you've done. I think it's really, I remember seeing you speak, it was way before the pandemic, but here in the South Bay, in Manhattan Beach years ago. And you were talking about how you launched your planning business out of your home, which is what so many entrepreneurs do. We all kind of start with a passion and something that we think, hey, let's just see where this goes. But you really took it to the next level. And I just want to have you tell that story a little bit of how you got started and, your journey into entrepreneurship and beyond.
Sure. Yeah, it's interesting hearing you say that, as I now have a daughter who's 23 and chatting with her about her passion and kind of hearing myself back at that speech that I gave to you a few years ago. And it's always been sort of part of my deck about, don't quit your daydream, but you got to take the paycheck, right? So we all have this passion, but I've been on numerous boards of entrepreneurship, and you'll hear these, founders say, YOLO, quit your job. If you don't love what you're doing, like quit, YOLO. And, you only live once. And I still find myself now, decades later telling my daughter, true. I mean, you hope to do what you love, but you got to get the paycheck, sister. And so since minute one, when I graduated from UCLA, I just remember it was like, and you're much younger than me, but if you remember that movie Reality Bites, like it was over. Like it was Winona Ryder's like parents were like, you're done. You get the credit card for the gas. And that was our generation, right? You're done. Like you find a job, and all my friends were finding super corporate jobs. I graduated from UCLA, or I was graduating at the time in 91, and they all were, out the door interviewing in their suits and their pantyhose for like, Enterprise and Nestle and Canon and all these jobs. And I was like, dang, like this is so not me. I don't see myself in a desk job. I'm creative, but scared. I'm entrepreneurial, but have no idea what that means. I sold jewelry in college just to pay for my study abroad program. Like, I know I can do this, but I have no idea if I can do this. And so I think there's just like all these different life experiences that brought me obviously to where I am today. And hopefully like I can give people the confidence. I think that's what I love most about my journey, is letting people at any age, whether you've that young mom that's like, wow, this is so tough being a young mom at home with kids, or, oh my God, I thought I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom and now I don't, my kids are off and don't need me. And there's so much in between those stages, as as a working mom, which I've always despised that term. We don't call them working dads. But we are what we are, and we've had to fight those sort of titles since, the beginning of time as women. But so I'm excited to be sort of back talking about my journey and inspiring those that are ready to get started.
Yeah, for sure. And just what you touched upon is so true. Like, we as women go through a whole host of things through, whether it's launching a business or getting into a career, but also thinking, I want to start a family someday. And what is that going to do to my career? Is that still going to allow me to be me, and all the different things that we go through our journeys. And you're so right. Like, you have a daughter, I think you said it's 23. I have one that's 25. And at the beginning, it is about getting out there and just getting your feet wet and getting that paycheck and doing all the things to like get the experience, but also learn about yourself and what you really are passionate about, and also what you're good at, right? Like, I think getting out into the workforce and like figuring that out, and I can take care of myself. Number one, I can collect a paycheck. And there's maybe some things that I'm pretty good at, and like figuring that out early on. But like you said, as you get older and then parenting comes into play, and then it's kind of figuring out what makes you tick. And hopefully you get to this place in life where you're fortunate enough to maybe venture out and do something on your own if entrepreneurship is on your heart or it's something that you want to do.
I just think at any stage, any job, there are nuggets of knowledge there that, my first job, and I was explaining this to my daughter, I'm like, the guy that I worked for was horrible. Like the things that went on in the 90s, crazy, like that I can't even repeat on your podcast. But I remember thinking, okay, I can leave, but how am I going to pay for my rent? Or I can stay. There's a lot of other women in this office that feel the same way, and we can kind of bind together, and I can absorb and be the sponge here. And it was a small private label manufacturing company. And I was like, wow, I have an opportunity here and learn how to start from like A to Z on how to manufacture a garment. And that's like, you can't learn that in school. And so even though my boss was a pig and there were all these other complications with the company, I knew that there was so much training in that space that if I wanted to have my own clothing line, if I wanted to start anything in my life later, I would get those nuggets of knowledge. And that's kind of what I was explaining to my daughter, who has all these friends that are miserable. Well, yeah, college was a blast. I mean, of course, like now there is no spring break. Like it sucks.
Exactly.
It's you're starting this new level of education, and there's something that you can learn in anywhere you are.
Absolutely. So true. So you were working for this manufacturing company, or what was it? What did you say it was? Private label?
Private label apparel manufacturing. Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So is that kind of what sparked or piqued your interest to getting into this lifestyle brand and organizing company? Okay. So what was that journey like? Did you kind of wake up one day and you're like, I'm going to start my own thing, or what happened?
Again, I think, and I tell, and I'm not sure exactly the demographics of your listeners, but even if they're older and can share with their daughters, like, I think college, a lot of it is about figuring out what you don't want to do. I mean, unless you go in knowing I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be, I want to go to graduate school, I want to be an attorney, I want to do this, that, or whatever. A lot of it is figuring out what you don't want to do. And so once you get into the world, I realized, okay, I love making things. I loved that. I loved that that company made infant and toddler clothes. And I loved the process of seeing the fabric being bought and cut and patterns and on the sewing machines, and then selling them out the door to JCPenney, and then watching someone, walking around in it. It was like, oh, that's such a cool feeling. My mom always thought I'd work on an assembly line. Like she was like, you were my kid that I was the youngest. I probably did a lot on my own as they were running around with the older kids. And I loved just like creating things.
So this was a thing since you were little, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've always been a creative, like doer. Right. And so my parents were both teachers. I think we lived a super comfortable life. I don't remember wanting or needing anything that I didn't have. But at one point when we were all three in college together, they were just totally tapped out. And I wanted to study abroad, and they said, well, then you've got to pitch in. Like, we can give you some. But so that's when I was like, it's the 80s and I'm in LA at UCLA, and everybody's has these shoulder dusters on, and I'm in a sorority. I can do anchors that hang to here and kites that hang to here and all these things. And I literally like went on Monday night meetings and showed my Wheezy creations. My middle name is Louise. So it's always been my thing to get what I want. I've loved having my own money. I've seen so many women struggle with that. And having to ask your husband for money, although there's no greater job than being a mother. But I think we forget how much we lose of ourselves in that role. So I've always told people, if you can keep your foot in the door in some way, work part-time. Now after COVID, you can, work remote and find ways. It's lovely to be at home with kids, but it's astonishing to see how many men sort of expect you to be both. And when they've flown the coop, it's like, well, why aren't you back in pharmaceuticals? And why aren't you
Right.
collecting the six figures anymore? And it's like, damn. So anyway, lost my train of thought there, but I think what I'm saying is, I don't know.
Well, no, you hit the nail on the head as far as like where we are in society right now. It's such a neat time for women. It's such a cool time for women because, listen, we've gone through this evolution where, we've had dual incomes for a long time now, but it was always the corporate job that was expected.
Yeah.
You bring home X, I bring home X, and together we do this. And that was the plan
Yeah.
always. But I think now, especially since COVID, people are finding ways to create businesses because they can work from home. And there's ways, technology alone has allowed, online businesses to become more profitable and more successful than ever. So there's so
Yeah.
much to this. And I think I love what you said about keeping your foot in the door. Like, and for me, it's not even so much because I'm on the same path as you, right? Like corporate job, learned as much as I could. Husband woke up one day and was like, I want to open a restaurant. And then I was like, okay, I'll help you and we'll do this together and kind of thing. But had I not gone through all that experience, I would never be able to help him in the way that I was and support him in the way that I did.
Yeah.
And there's so much to that. And it's wonderful that I was able to be a mom and a wife and support the business and do all those things. But there was still this part of me that I had left behind. And I think that's the part that we want women to really listen to, is wherever you are in your journey, whether you're, a stay-at-home mom or you're an empty nester or you're just trying to figure out what your thing is. It's like, just tap into what it is that you're good at first and foremost and what you love to do, and try to figure out either a career or a job or create one if that's what is, calling you. And so it's a great point that you make about just like keeping your foot in the door. And sometimes it
Well,
can just be as simple as coming up with an idea.
Well, and I would say two things to that. For women, that there's so much, pressure when you first have those kids too, and you feel like you've given up so much. And does this mean my dream is over and your passion is ended? I would say absolutely not. But you're going to have to find crazy hours in the day to feed that passion, to keep it alive, to nurture it. It might not happen when you have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And you have to realize that there's so much time left. I used to talk about, Vera Wang, I think, started her own label when she was 40. I'm starting over at 55 with a new brand. I really don't see it probably taking off and the dream that I want to continue until I'm 60. I mean, there's just, so it is about that passion. How do you keep it alive when you're exhausted and you've got so many other people relying on you? But I will say something to that, whether you're young and choosing a partner, or you're maybe starting over and choosing a partner. Choosing my husband is the most important decision I have made in my career. And I say that because I knew at the time, like you said, we knew we were going to be two incomes. There was never a time when I said, I want to be a stay-at-home mom, which is completely fine to do. But we both knew we wanted to live at the beach, which is like impossible to live in California anymore. As I try and tell my children, I'm not sure how they're going to do it. You're in the restaurant industry, so are we. We like to eat out. We like to do these things that required two incomes our entire life. But that also meant he is now, which when I married him, he wasn't, but he's the cook. He cleans. He gave up golf. I was telling a friend the other day, like, he gave up golf when the kids were little. I was like, dude, you're not going for like 6 hours on a Saturday somewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, we have twins. So I gave birth to twins in 2001. We adopted twin boys that lost their parents in 2015. So we know, I guess, we've got 4 23-year-olds. Like,
Wow.
there was no time for, there was time for passion but there wasn't time for some of those other things. That doesn't mean they're over, but they get put on hold, and that's okay.
Absolutely.
You got to
Yeah,
keep,
you have to,
they're back burnered, but like, don't let them burn.
right.
Just simmer those things and know that when it's ready, you put them on the front and you're like, let's light this thing on fire and let's do it.
Yeah, so that brings me to a question. When that was happening and you were going through this period of time, how were you fueling that passion still, even though you maybe couldn't focus on running a business and doing all those things? Were you still tapping into that kind of joy of creating and like at
Yeah.
least using those gifts in some capacity?
So mine was unique. Mine did become an income right away. I mean,
Okay.
I was in apparel while my husband and I were dating, and then we got married. And I was in the apparel industry, which I did love. Ended up creating my own brand. We had, my maiden name was Reach. We created a bottoms line called Reach. My brother and I were in business together. 9/11 hit as I'm holding two, 4-pound babies, watching the Twin Towers fall. We had just finished our first collection that was supposed to be shipping to Nordstrom on 9/30. And, 9/11, it was like trying to get extensions to 9/30. Nobody was giving extensions. The whole world was so, financially insecure. Everybody was about everything. And I just looked at these 4-pound rats, as I call them. They were preemies. And I'm sobbing and knowing that this was going to probably not work out, but thinking, I don't even want to travel. I don't want to get on a plane. This has to be my priority. But holy crap, we own a home. Our first home was we had 3 units. We lived in one, 750 square feet, while 2 other people rented and pretty much paid the mortgage. But it was like, damn, I got to get out there. And so literally I created my own birth announcement. I designed it and I printed it and sent it out, and people started asking, who did that? Where did you get that birth announcement? And I was like, oh, I made it. And then it was sort of like ding, 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 not thinking it could be a career, but thinking, okay, all my friends are having babies. I have baby showers lined up. I have wedding gifts. I've got to contribute in some way. And so I literally I created some samples, and friends started doing those shopping parties. Remember all those sort
Oh
of
yeah.
shopping parties? And so I showed up with my samples, and I had stationery and stickers and Christmas cards and whatnot. And paper was so incredibly viral. So I started putting on any of my orders, which I was literally designing and printing myself after the babies went to bed, and started putting my Erin Condren at AOL.com address on the back with the like dial-up
The
website.
dial up, yeah.
There wasn't a website yet. It was just, and people would email me like, oh, I want a Christmas card. Oh, I just had a baby. Oh, what'd you have? Here's some JPEGs of some ideas. And the orders started coming in. And so this, from minute one, though, I knew, like I said, I was in a manufacturing job where I hated it. But I went, oh, wow, I can tap into the cost sheets that I knew how to make. I could figure out how to make this profitable from minute one. And that's what I did. So for me, it was pretty unique. I had to make it work. It wasn't just like, oh, this would be so fun to make stationery. It was like, this thing has to like help contribute to my family. And
Yeah,
so
and it was built out of necessity too, which is so cool.
100%.
Yeah,
That was one of my things. It was like, necessity is the mother of invention, right? It
invention.
was
Yeah.
like, what does my family need to get organized? And at the time it was a planner, and then it was like, a full schedule board when like your kids at your age, with sports and juggling plus working, the schedule that I did, and who's picking up my kids and what, I mean, so anyway, and the rest really grew into a beautiful brand that I'm super proud of, and has helped a lot of people plan and organize and live a less stressful and more organized life, and where they can find that white space in their schedule to be happy and nurture their passion, right? You look down and think, I'm never going to get anything done today. But if you really have a calendar, and whether it's digital or not, you go, oh, shoot, I do have 2 hours right there.
Yeah.
And maybe after I put the kids to bed, I'm not going to watch whatever show it was. And I am going to take this class online, or do this, or put whatever it is on your list that's fueling and nurturing that or stirring that pot on the back burner.
So true. And I just love how you put that, because I was just talking with a client earlier today about scheduling and how we, when you don't stick to a plan and you don't block time out for certain things, they don't happen, right? Like
No.
you
Mm-mm.
you cannot you cannot build in the things in life that you're working towards if you're constantly reacting in life. And so if you're planning ahead and you're scheduling these things and you're blocking out time to do the little things that you may or may not, you know, have as a necessity, but it gives
Yes.
you joy, that's how they're going to happen. And
Yeah.
so again, like I mean, it's genius. And to this day, I mean, everyone I know knows about your lives, your planners and organizers, and what an impact they've made on so many people's lives. So you really made a huge impact, obviously, on women, and you did it in a fun and creative way that was, fun. It wasn't just like the old Franklin Covey planner that had the dots and the check marks and
And that's
the
how it
boxes.
started. It literally was, that's how it started. But I was like, I want it to be pretty and fun. And when you make it pretty and fun, it's not what you have to do today. Like, oh God, you look and go, God, what do I have to do today? What can I get done today? Like there's a whole different mindset. Like, what do I get to do today? It's having that different mindset. And it's truly, I would tell my kids at the time, and I tell my husband now, like, if it's not on the calendar, it ain't happening. Like
Yeah.
what is the famous saying? No one plans to fail. You simply fail to plan. But it's amazing what you can get done in a day when you really map it out. And I used to call it my screenplay. And even my presidential days. There was a boss that I had, one that I loved after that other boss, and he had told me that had volunteered for one of the Clinton campaign years and years and years ago. But he was amazed by this like script that like everything is planned out, from the number of steps to the handshake to the this and that, whatever. And I remember thinking, like, that's sometimes days how I feel like it is. Like I'm not going to be able to get all this done. Oh wait, if I move the dry cleaner to here because I'm already going to Trader Joe's, which is there, and I do this, and it's like your Uber stops. You just reconfigure it, and you're like, dang.
Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up. I use, Post-it notes and things like that. Move it to the next day. Like, I got so much done today. That's so cool. And cross it off. But then move it to the next day. Don't.
Yeah, and I love that when you say, one of my favorite things is when I go in the next day to my planner and I look at all the stuff I accomplished the day before. It's like you're starting your day off with this feeling of accomplishment and success, because you're like, look at what I got done yesterday, because I stuck to the plan, or I moved things around that didn't work, and then I'm starting off ahead again today. And it's kind of that concept.
Added, like I used to. I'd add things. I still do. I'm like, oh wait. I went to the car wash yesterday.
Yep.
And I add that just so I can cross it off. I'm all,
yeah, totally. Sometimes, I add things that I've already done just so that I can cross it off. Exactly, 100%. Well, it was a genius concept. It's a beautiful company. I know that you sold that company, and you've started a new venture now. And I want you. We have a little more time, so I'd love for you to tell us a little bit about that, and kind of like, what was your transition like? Like, I mean, for most people, it's like, to start a company that you're able to grow to a place where you actually can sell it. And it's like, brand sold in Target is pretty unbelievable. But then to sell that and move on to another thing, obviously you're officially a serial entrepreneur, I guess. And so take us through that a little bit, that what happened, as much as you want to share, and kind of that journey.
Yeah, it's funny. It drives my mother crazy. Again, I told you they were both teachers that like collected the paycheck on the first and the 401k, and now I'm just starting over. And it's like, why? Like, why are you doing more? But I think my husband and I both are fueled by what we've created. And I didn't get to do enough where I was at Erin Condren. So it wasn't exactly when and how I wanted to exit the company. But I was so proud of what I created there. But there was so much more I really wanted to do. And I'm finding that now here in the space that I am creating Stuga. And I'll give you a little bit of history on that. But it just says where one door closes, and sometimes it's not exactly how you saw the ending. Another door opens, and it might be in a company, in a job, in a relationship, or whatever it is. And I know it sounds so cliche that everything happens for a reason. I truly believe that in the bottom of my heart. And I'll never forget when my sister-in-law said, sometimes God changes, what was it? Sometimes God wrecks your plans before your plans wreck you. And it was really this powerful quote um, at the time. And I, to this day, feel like there is some, whatever you want to believe, but in the universe or a God, but I do believe that there was more for me to do. So in 2020, when, boy, that was a crazy time for all of us, and having 4 seniors, um, all heading off to college. Let's don't even go there of that year of college applications and whatnot for all 4.
I can't imagine. I'm dreading it.
Oh, Lordy be. I got through that, but we all found ourselves at home, right? I mean, everybody was sent home essentially, from our jobs, from our colleges, and we found ourselves back in Kansas. So my family originated in Lindsborg, Kansas, a tiny little Swedish town, in 1869. My parents ended up, we took over the farm from them about 8 years ago. And we found ourselves there in a safer place, away from, we didn't know what was happening and what was going on next. And so the kids were all coming home from college too. And we said, everybody, let's meet in Kansas. And we found ourselves there on the farm. Of course, we bought the only little bar in town. It's called the Stuga, which means ale house. Stuga means home, or a small house in Swedish. And so from there, we sort of looked around and said, gosh, my relatives have been farming cattle feed, corn, wheat, alfalfa, and whatnot since 1869. It's our turn to take over the farm. And what are we going to do with it? And we said, we've been in the bar and restaurant business on my husband's career for years. We said, let's make vodka. So here we are. I also had a non-compete with the company, with Erin Condren. And so that was a niche that I could go after and do something with. And I just see there's so much about the name Stuga and home, and what you can create from home, things that happen at home that I never, again, the tough part of transitioning through that phase, if like you asked, but finding myself, what a blessing to be at home with my kids. My schedule was so busy, was so crazy. At any minute, QVC wanted me in Philadelphia, and I was missing a water polo game. And now I'm at home, and I'm creating a brand called Stuga, which means home. And yes, it's about mixing cocktails and creating joy at home, but there's just a lot more I see in this as we move forward. So we're having fun with it too. And I'm working with my husband, and we're that couple literally in the stores in Kansas when you walk in, saying like, hey, would you like to try a cocktail from our farm in Lindsborg, Kansas? So it's funny to see come full circle. It's fun. Sometimes I bump into planner girls that are like, wait, are you Erin Condren, the planner lady? I'm like, yeah, let's have a drink. Yeah. So yeah, it's about reinventing myself right now. But it feels really good to be creative again and passionate again. And I feel like I was missing that for many years. So it's back.
That is so cool. And I just, one of the things that you were speaking about before about the quote that your sister gave you, and about, God coming in to wreck your plans. I mean, one of the things that I believe to be fact, at least in my life, is that nothing is by accident, and that everything that happens is meant to happen to take you to that next level of becoming more of who you are and who you are meant to be. And so every experience in life, whether it's positive or negative, is an opportunity for growth and to learn. Mm-hmm. And it's like you did what you did with Erin Condren to build this opportunity to take you to this next phase of your life. Right. And I just believe in that. And I think that anyone can look at their situation in life and say, I went through this hard time, or I went through this transition, and it's hard going through it, but what's on the other side of that is going to be incredible. And
it is so hard to see that. It's so hard to see that. But I have found, so much joy on the other side, for sure.
Yeah, but you have to go through it to get there, right? And you have to go through the pain, and there's, on the other side of pain is usually your greatest purpose, is what I like to say. And you're getting back to who you are, which is the creator, right? Like you were working in your business instead of on your business, and really not doing the creating, I'm sure, as much
Right.
as it
Oh,
went
for sure.
on. Yeah.
For
And
sure. Yeah.
that's what gave you joy in the first place of doing it.
Right. And that is the hard part of growing and scaling and whatnot. You do, I haven't heard that. And I love what you just said about that, working in my business instead of on my business. It was very true. It was just,
Mhm.
just as you ramp up and just to look back at those days and how stressful that was and the direction it was going, it sort of just takes off and you don't always have the choices or the steering wheel. So it feels so good to be back in control. When I had my at-home office and when I started from scratch, there's a beauty in not having any employees and doing
Yeah.
it all yourself. But there's also a point when you're like, shoot, there's not enough hours in the day. So
Yep.
it's finding that balance as you have your passion and how do I realize that, what I don't have the skill sets to take me to the next level, and finding that partner or that friend that you can do it with because there's not enough hours in the day and you do have kids, and what if we both did this, so it's really kind of taking a look back at, like you just said, and how can I continue to work on my business when instead of just getting caught in the weeds, which so many people do.
100%. And I think having a partner, when it's someone that's, like you said, the smartest business decision you ever made was marrying your husband. And I can relate because, when you know that you have someone that is kind of, the entrepreneurship or understands like the path that you're going
Yeah.
down and you're on it together, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
And, if you're someone who likes to work alone and you want to start a business or whatever, that's great too. But just
Yeah.
surround yourself with people who can support you and who you can like delegate little tasks to that are not like, I always talk about the 80-20 rule, like spend 80% on your time on the things that give you the most joy and creativity. And that's where you'll thrive, and hire out your weaknesses,
100%.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. No, you nailed that for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things that I think I've learned over the last, 5 years is just we can't do it all as much as we think we can. You do need, even if you're an entrepreneur and you don't have the money to hire employees, there's so many ways to go out and get like, a virtual assistant or whatever it is to help you with your social media or whatever, all these different things. There's ways to like access resources to support you. But
Yeah,
I want to hear a little bit before we have to pop off. I want to hear a little
yeah.
bit about Stuga. First of all, I love the name. And I
Okay.
love that it came
That's
from the
great.
bar that you bought. Yeah, hold up the
Yeah.
bottle so we can see.
Okay, there's my label. So it's fun to be back, like creating again.
Oh,
So I knew that I wanted something that reflected. This is the white-tailed deer, which is indigenous to Kansas. The name itself, I just love Stuga. We've come out with a vodka, and then we came out with these. And I'll tell you the funny part about all this stuff is, so my husband, he's 6'6", and was drinking White Claws. And we get out to the farm and they're like, dude, like
yeah.
what are you? Like, who drinks White Claws? And so when we started doing this, I said, honey, you need like a manly man seltzer, And so as I started playing around with color and style, I thought I just wanted something super genderless. When you look out there, everything is very floral, like all and this is actually a canned cocktail, so it's not even technically a seltzer, but it's a vodka and a soda with just a teeny splash of juice. But
Mhm.
I just wanted something that felt like, a man would drink it, a woman would drink it, whatever, but it just had this sort of cool, and it's all about color for me, and naming things. Like this one's called Lake, and it's got lime juice in it. We've got Sun and Harvest, and we're coming out with Beach, which is pineapple. But it's just fun to be back in the branding of it, and just yeah, we just felt like this was something that I could pour my talents into, but we could also control. We're working with a distiller. It's one of those things. Can we do this ourselves? We could, but we've never done this before, and it sounds expensive. Why don't we partner with somebody that's done it and is really good at it? And so that was one of those starting over decisions too. So here we are. We are in over 200 stores in Kansas. We're trying to create a brand really in the heartland. So we just got a
Mhm.
distributor in Missouri, and we're going to really stay there. We've got it in a couple stores here in California just so we can buy it, like at Mickey's Deli and Bocados and a
Oh,
couple.
amazing. I was going to ask where
Yeah,
locally, because a lot of most of the people that listen to this show are from
yeah,
the South Bay. There's some from across the country here and there,
yeah,
Texans and other
yeah,
places, but
yeah.
but yeah, it's great to know that Mickey's Deli sells it. Bocados, those are both Hermosa Beach local
Manhattan
stores.
Fine Wines, and then we have a restaurant with David Slay, who I think is the most remarkable and talented chef. He sells it in cocktails and martinis in his restaurant. So yeah, so it's great to have it here in Cali. But our goal is to grow it in the heartland, and then find a partner, a larger distributor or company or private equity that wants to then take it national. But it's
National,
also a
yeah,
really good start. We're super. It not only looks cute, which was my job.
yeah.
It tastes good, which we were so scared that first run. We're like, oh crap, we know it's cute, but does it taste good? It
Yeah, and
really,
that's one of the things with those seltzers too, is that, or like, and yours is more like, I would call it like a high noon because it actually
it
has the
is.
vodka
It's
in
a
it.
canned cocktail, or they call it a ready to drink, an RTD.
Okay,
Yeah.
right.
It's
So,
like
and I like the high noon. I'm sorry to White Claw, but I just don't, the palate for me is not
sure.
good. And so it's important, like those vodka connoisseurs that love our vodka and our vodka sodas want to make sure that if we're getting one of these, that it tastes good.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
good to
And
know.
again, that's the big bonus. And there's zero added sugar. We just wanted something that wasn't sickeningly sweet. Like everybody adds these wacky flavors when if you were just walking into a bar, you wouldn't say, "Oh, I have a vodka soda with a splash of mango and strawberry pizzazz." Like, no, you get a vodka soda with a lime wedge or a splash of orange juice or whatever. So we just wanted to create something super authentic, and it's working. So we just
That's
finished like the
so
first
cool. And
year, and we're fired up to get back to
so when
trying to.
did you officially launch? Like, how long have you been doing this for?
We launched product last May, but
Okay.
this is a whole new learning curve, and this is again, it's daunting, it's scary. It's like I know how to make paper and stationery and things that I can print myself, and but this is liquor laws and all kinds of things that each state has different regulations, and
Yeah.
but it's amazing what you can do yourself with the internet. I didn't have the internet when I was first starting out, right? So this is it's been pretty fun to and especially in the heartland, I can pick up the phone and talk to somebody at alcohol beverage control, and she's lovely and friendly, and
That's the
but
thing about the Midwest.
the
I went
Midwest,
to school
oh my
there.
God, we're just loving it there. It's been
Yeah.
really, really welcoming. And so anyway, so yeah, the brand is for sure taking off, but I see so much more potential in doing more than just this alcohol brand, and creating something that is something people can enjoy at home and in your Stuga, wherever you call home. We
Oh,
say where there's no place like Stuga. So yeah.
I love it. That is so cute. And I think just the whole vision of you guys creating this, from this farm and the concept of where it came from. People love a good story. They
Mhm.
love to hear the connection behind the brand.
Mhm.
And I think that it's so unique and so cool. And I think once that things get big and commercial, that may get lost at some point. But by then you're probably disconnected from the why at that point anyway. But I just love this story. I love that it was your family, like your family settled there,
Mhm.
and I can picture you guys on your farm in Kansas, and just the whole thing. It's just cool, and I hope that it gets much larger distribution in Southern California. But we're gonna send.
Thank you.
I hope Mickey's Deli, carries a lot, because I'm gonna be sending a lot of people there to,
Yay!
yeah, sell out. We got lots of.
Hear that, George? Place your order.
Yeah, there you go. And of course, Bocados. And I have a lot of other places, little local shops that I would love for you to sell to.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll talk about that another time. But I just want to thank you so much for your time. This has been amazing. I could talk to you for hours. I feel like
I
we could
feel the
dive deep
same.
into a lot of different subjects, motherhood and all kinds of stuff, but we'll have to save that for another episode. But just thank you so
I
much.
would
How
like
can
to.
people reach you? How can they follow you?
Yeah,
Read more about your story and the brand.
sure. For now, stugaspirits.com is our website. So it tells the backstory there. Soon you'll be able to order it online. We're launching merch that is really fun, which has also always been a passion, as I told you, as I started in apparel. So yeah, or for sure follow us on Stuga Vodka on Instagram and Facebook, and yeah. So it's fun to start this new journey. I have like 500 followers, which is so funny when there were like a million followers before, but I feel so engaged with each and every one of them as I'm meeting people in liquor stores and telling the story. So it's really fun to watch it grow. And thank you for doing what you're doing, because we do need to be fueled, and we need to find our purpose and know that our passion can drive it. So thanks for having me on.
Of course. Well, like I said at the beginning, our listeners and the audience is going to resonate with your story and be inspired by you. I just know it. So thank you for
Yay.
your time again. And we will talk soon. And thank you,
Okay.
everyone, for joining us. And we'll see you next time. Thank you again for listening to Where Passion Meets Purpose. If you're enjoying this show, please subscribe and download it so you don't miss an episode every single week. And if you think you have a friend who might benefit from listening, please share it with them as well. If you'd like to contact me, you can always reach me through email on my website at jenmentasana.com and my social media, Jen_Mentasana. And you can DM me there and I'll always respond, and we can connect about topics on the show or anything else you'd like to discuss. Thanks again for tuning in.